In our last video, we set up the file structure for our first project in the Web 105 folder. I have two files out here. You won't have the demo site folder, but you should have the intro folder. And in the intro folder, you should have the images folder and the CSS folder and an index.html page. I'm going to open up Visual Studio Code where I have this with I've only loaded one image. You will need two images. I'm going to get you started, but you will have to finish some of this on your own just based on the sample. So since we have index.html, and it's critical that you have this .html extension and that index is all lowercase for this to work, because when you do that, you get keyboard shortcuts from a file called Emmet that are installed automatically, and you'll learn how to use some of the shortcuts as we go along. So we type an exclamation point, and you can see it comes up as an Emmet abbreviation, and we hit tab, and that gives us the basic structure of our website. So the doc type HTML tells the browser that we're using the current version of HTML. We're setting our language to English. There are two sections of every web page. You have a head section, which has information about the web page, and then you have a body section, which is what actually appears on the page. So here in the head section, we're going to have a title, which will show up in a tab when we test this, and we're going to just call it Project 1. And the other things that are in here, it's telling us what character set we're using, and it's setting up here with the viewport. This is so it would look right on a cell phone. In the body section, we're going to use some of our basic HTML tags. So in the references, I have you looking at these things from the W3 school site. This is your textbook. And so you will want to go and look at the site, and you need to skim through the beginning here and read these pages. And what I like best about the W3 school site, and we use this instead of a textbook because we can test things here. You can see it's running. And so if I wanted to add an H2, and you'll see what I'm doing here. Every tag, most tags have an opening and closing element, but I can test them here. And you can see that the H1, that's your most important heading, is up here. Your level 2 heading is here, and then it has a paragraph here. And this is the minimum that we need for creating a website. We have the doc type HTML, then we say that it's an HTML page, and then we have the body. So this is missing the head section, which you would have for most pages, but it lets you run what's currently working here. It's a good site with lots of sample things. You'll want to look at the attributes. I will typically not lecture in depth on what you're reading here, but I do expect you to read it and understand how it works. So we'll be adding an image with a source. So this is an attribute. We also have a web link here, which is, we use this with an anchor tab, and we can test this here. So if we go to the W3 schools, it works here, and we'll go back. So I often use the W3 schools site for testing things. So we can see this pattern here, and you're going to need to do a link to McHenry County College. So we can change this, and we can test it here to make sure it works. And the easiest way to get those links is to actually go out to the page. And so if I go to the McHenry County College page, then up here, I can do Control-C or Command-C if you're on a Mac. And I can go back into my Try It editor right here. And I use their pattern. So now this should work if I did it correctly. So I can test it, and I can test the link here, and it works. So that gives me the link that I need for my link to MCC, which is one of your requirements. So I can go back out into my editor, and I'm going to start doing your basic requirements here. So we have, and we need to have an H1 tag. There's typically one of these per page, and this will be my first site. You can have it say something else if you like. This isn't really about the content that you're writing, it's seeing how things work. So there's typically one H1 tag per page. There's levels from H1 to H6, with H1 being the most important and each further one being less important. And then we can do H2. I am taking Web 105 at McHenry County College. And then you need to write a paragraph about 2 or 3 sentences long. So it's P and tab. Write 3 sentences about why you are taking this class. And you can hit enter in here. It's not going to matter when it goes to the web page what you hope to learn. So you will actually want to write 3 sentences there. That's all the original work you're coming up with. And then we're going to have a couple of images, and to put in an image, it's IMG tab. And then the source here, mine is in the images folder. So I have to put the folder name first. And then I can slash, and it gives me the options to pick from. And I drop that in. Alt is just a description. Cute puppy. I don't remember which one I put, so I'm not going to give it a better description. And then you will also need to add a link. So I'm going to put my link inside of my paragraph, and a link starts with an A, which is an anchor tag, and then I will paste in that link that I did there. So it's giving me some errors here. So that's because I have this twice. So I want to get rid of that. Put a quote there. And so I don't have any errors here. And I'm going to need to test it. Now, when you're doing the page, I asked you to do a couple of H3s and another image. It shouldn't take you very long. You need to write 3 original sentences, and then we can test it. So before you test it, you need to save it. Control S saves, or you can go to File, Save. And then we can right-click here, and I have this set up with open in default browser, open in other browsers. If you haven't set that up yet, you can reveal in your file explorer and then pick it. So if I were to do it that way, I can then, and this one's opening it in Microsoft's browser. And so we can see, oh, look, there's an error here. I shouldn't have that end stray tag there. But the link works. And so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to fix that error. That should not be printing. Ah, right here, that's where it is. That's my error. Because this quote right here is bad. I shouldn't have 2 closing anchor tags. So I need to get rid of that. Closing anchor tag, closing paragraph. Looks good. I can save that. And this time I'm going to open it using my default browser. And then I can either right-click and choose print, or do Control P. And we're going to use print to PDF. And you should also have a save as PDF option. And we will print that. And I'll just leave it on my desktop. Project 1. Save that. And that's what you're going to hand in. Make sure that you do all of the different things that are listed in the requirements and read the required pages at the W3 Schools site.